On behalf of all assembled here today, I should now like to invite our newest alumni, Dr. Laumann, to address Convocation.
Thank you very much. That was a beautiful citation. If you row long enough, it gets really, really long. I was enjoying it all until you started talking about my blog. And then I could feel myself starting to perspire, not quite sure what was going to come out of your mouth. It was okay. Thank you very much, and welcome graduates. Thank you, faculty. Welcome, distinguished guests. And thank you, University of Western Ontario, for honoring me in this way. There's no place that I would rather be today than standing here addressing all of you graduates, all of you who've worked so very hard from high school. I have 4 teenagers who are all in high school, and it starts there, the planning and the getting into university, the hard work that all of you have done over the last 4, 5, 6, 7 years to get doctorates and degrees here at the University of Western Ontario. What connects us all here today is that we're all connected in that we want to live our best life. We want to be great in our careers. We want to have good and rewarding careers. We want to be good in our family and in our community, and we want to make a difference. I think that's what connects us all. And in my life, I spent a lot of time pursuing excellence in sport. I was part of 4 Olympic teams, and during that time, I thought a lot about what it took to make a national team, what was it that separated people who not only made the national team but went on to win Olympic and World Championship medals. And there were a lot of things that didn't make sense. There was this one year that a woman who was 6'2", 185 pounds, huge advantage in rowing, she tries out for the team and she doesn't make the team. And that same year, Larissa Beethenthal, who Al Morrow coached, not only made the team, she went on to win Olympic and world champion medals. So obviously in sport, success is not just based on talent. It's not just based on the length of your limbs or your lung capacity. And in my life today, I have the extraordinary privilege of meeting leaders in their field, people who've gone to the moon. Rick Hansen, who wheeled around the world in his wheelchair to raise money for spinal cord research. And I believe that upon meeting these people and getting to know them and understanding that the greatest factor in any of our success is the way that we think, what we believe about ourselves and our abilities, and what we tell ourselves about our future. You stand here today as graduates, and anything is possible. You have everything that you need to lead magical and extraordinary lives. But so often, we don't realize it when we're in the middle of it. It takes us longer for our confidence and our dreams and our abilities to envision our lives as magical to catch up with our talents. Certainly physically, I was ready to be a world champion and an Olympic champion far earlier than I actually achieved those goals. And that's because of that voice inside of our heads. For me, it's a little man that sits on my shoulder. It's my gremlin telling me, not the inner cheerleader, but it tells us what we can't do, that the goal we have is too big, that the things that we're imagining today as we sit in these seats and start to think about our lives and start to think about what's ahead, that gremlin's telling us, who do we think we are? How audacious is that to think that we can accomplish that thing inside our heads? Well, who are we not to? Who are we not to achieve the very dreams that we have today? And what I learned along the way in rowing, and what I've learned along the way in so many of the things that I've challenged myself to do, is that gremlin, that little guy that sits on our shoulder and tells us that we can't do it, we shouldn't do it, we don't deserve it. It's just the voice of fear and doubt. It's not giving us some rational perspective on what we're really capable of doing. And there's no magical place of success that we get to, no position that we can hold in this incredible country that gets rid of that gremlin. But what we start to understand is we don't have to listen. We can move ahead with the things that we hold in our head and our heart today, despite the moments of doubt. By the time I was 12 years old, I had 3 significant dreams for my life. One, not surprisingly, is I wanted to go to the Olympics. And I actually wanted to go to the Olympics because I'd watched the Olympics on television, and I was captivated by a gymnast by the name of Nadia Comaneci. 1976 Olympics. She was spectacular. She scored the first perfect 10. And from the moment I saw Nadia on TV, I imagined I would be the next Nadia Comaneci. I could see myself jumping and leaping on that balance beam, 5'11", 160 pounds. Not very graceful. But that dream captured my imagination, and I held that dream close to my heart for almost 2 decades. And when I was 12, I also had an author come to our school, and his name was W.O. Mitchell, another great Canadian. And he read from the book, Who Has Seen the Wind? And in the moment when he started reading, he transplanted me from, the cold gym floor into the middle of rural Saskatchewan, where young boys and girls played with cow dung and used them as hockey pucks. And from the moment I listened to W.O. Mitchell, I swore that one day I would write a book. And as was mentioned in my citation, I did write Child's Play, and I'm just finishing my second book, Unsinkable. 1976 was also the year of the Ethiopian famine, and I watched what was happening in Ethiopia, and I swore that one day I'd make a difference in the lives of children. And for 11 years, I've been working with Right to Play, making a difference in the lives of children, bringing sport and play to the most disadvantaged children in the world. But the things about dreams is so many of the dreams that we have today, we kind of get off course for a while. We get absorbed in whatever we're doing, and we forget about our dreams. And I meet adults every day who are 35, 40, 45 years old, and somehow they've disconnected with the dreams that they had for their life when they were sitting in the seats that you're sitting in today. And they've forgotten to check in. They've forgotten to take that moment in their life, take that moment in their day, and just ask themselves, am I on the right course? Do I need to make some changes in my life? And often that question will just cause us to change 10 degrees, 10 degrees, 10 degrees, 10 degrees, until finally we become focused on our true north. If there are some exceptional things that I have in my lifetime, talents that I have, I think it's that ability to constantly check in, to make sure that what I'm doing is lined up with what I believe, where my integrity lies. And I would encourage all of you as graduates, as you jump into your careers, and I'm sure many of you here today have jobs already or future prospects that you're already honed in on, that as you get caught up in your success, that you take some time to stand back and reflect about where you are, and even more importantly, where you're going. And all the decisions that we make help align us to that true north. And when we're aligned with our true north, it brings us incredible energy and joy in everything that we do. I think that one thing that we all need, we come from a country where there's just amazing opportunity. I've traveled the world, and there's some beautiful countries. There's some spectacular architecture and everything in Europe. But when I come back to Canada, I realize that this is the greatest country in the world. I feel so grateful that I have an opportunity to live here and flourish here. We have so much more opportunity than most other countries in the world. And if we see our life as full of possibility and full of opportunity, as I said, anything is possible. There will be challenges. The other talent that we all need in life, of course, is persistence. Persistence to overcome the inevitable challenges that are as much a part of life as the gold medal moments. We know that we're going to have challenges. No matter what your dream is today, no matter what you're thinking of doing, you know that sometimes life is going to take you off course, that you're going to be sideswiped, as I was, by about 10 weeks before the Olympic Games. And in those moments, we have an opportunity. We have an opportunity to reveal what's inside us. After my accident 10 weeks before the Olympic Games, the doctors told me that the Olympics were over, that I was never going to row again, and that I would walk again, but with a slight limp. Lying in that hospital bed 10 weeks before the Olympics as the world champion, in a time in my life where I was completely and totally focused on going to the Olympic Games in 10 weeks' time, I felt huge amounts of emotion. I couldn't believe that I'd been hit by about 10 weeks before the Olympic Games. But I also couldn't grasp the doctor's words, "You're not going to the Olympics." Because going to the Olympics had been something that I dreamed about. It's something that had captured my imagination for 15, 20 years. And so, as it said in my citation, 3 days after my accident, I got a set of TheraBands and I tied them to the end of my bed, and I started pulling on those TheraBands. And I spent 10 days in the hospital in Germany, another 11 days in the hospital at Royal Jubilee in Victoria. And instead of having a roommate when I got to Royal Jubilee Hospital, there was a bed beside mine, and on that bed there was a stationary bike. And every day I would get out of my bed into a wheelchair and wheel over to that stationary bike. It was a Monarch in those days. Imagine, yeah, somebody behind me knows what a Monarch bike is. And they'd taken the pedals off the bike and stuck a set of hand grips on. And I would sit in my wheelchair, and for 90 minutes, I would grind away on this stationary bike with the sound of Led Zeppelin on my headset. Been a long time since I rock and roll, you know. This was definitely not ideal training 10 weeks before the Olympic Games, but it was something that I could do. And in our life, we're always going to have that contrast. We're going to have our dreams. We're going to have the things that inspire us, our vision of the future that we hold so strong. But then we're going to have the challenges that we have right now. You know, the things that we have to go through, the things that are disappointing us. And what lies between where we are now and where we're going is belief. Belief that somehow, some way, we're going to get there. Belief is what got me to the starting line of the 1992 Olympics in Barcelona, Spain. Belief has been a fundamental principle in my entire life. And I ask you today to keep dreaming, to dream big, audacious, ambitious dreams for your life, and to focus on that task that you have today and do it to the best of your abilities. Because what lies between where you are now and the dreams that you're aiming for is belief. It's an absolute pleasure to stand here today as a graduate of Western Ontario, as a graduate and an honorary degree recipient. I wish all of you a truly magical and rewarding life. Thank you very much.